Hello. Here we are, our first ever live stream. Should be interesting. It's the first time we've tried this sort of thing, but it's a new world with all this sort of technology. And until we can get together and start running first contact conventions in person again, this is going to be the way forward that we do it. However, tonight is obviously think of it as just like a convention panel. All right, just a bit virtual. It's a Saturday night, so welcome everybody. I can see we have 8 people already in, and I'm good for a Saturday night. I hope you are too. Obviously now, last night, Star Trek Discovery Season 3 started on Netflix again, and being the big nerd that I am, as you can see in the background with all my Trek stuff, that I had to talk Star Trek with somebody, and luckily, I'm hoping that you guys are up for it too. So the good thing is, though, I am welcomed by 2 very good friends of mine. The first one is my co-event manager and very good friend, G, all the way from Queensland. How are you?
Hot.
Good to see you.
It's hot in Queensland, and we got to go outside today.
Yeah, don't rub that in. And we are now joined by a third person. This man has been the face of conventions for longer than I've been attending, probably longer than he cares to remember as well. So really old. So everybody, please welcome the man, the legend, Mr. Peter Bard.
Let me just get my hearing aid. Let me get my hearing aid and walking stick. Thank you very much. So it's good to see you.
Do we have a crowd rolling?
Crowd roll. Look, I don't really. I'm a bit worried that we're actually going in with a stereotype kind of idea here at the moment. We are sitting around on a Saturday night discussing Star Trek. Hey, but Scotty, before we go any further, a little something for G.
Thank you. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, no way I can keep that as
happy birthday, mate.
Thanks, Pete.
Happy birthday, G. You can see Blake, how you doing? Wishing you a happy birthday there as well.
Thanks, Blake.
All right. And Mitch is here. Hey, Mitch.
We got Mitch.
So as you can see, a lot of you can see the comments and questions or anything you've got in the stream there. I can see them here, and I can bring them up, and we can say hello to all our friends that we haven't seen in a long time.
It's weird.
Oh, here's a special one for me, actually.
Oh. Shucks.
So, Star Trek Discovery Season 3 started last night. I think it dropped at 7 o'clock. I ran straight through to the lounge room and kicked Diana off whatever she was watching and went, it's new Star Trek. I have to watch it straight away. And, yeah, it was fan. I loved it. It was... The show, even, I guess, right from the start, I think it's so theatrical, like it's so cinematic, so the scale is massive.
It does. It feels like a film. Every episode.
Oh, does it what? Yeah. But the key things is sort of, so I've only watched it once so far because I'm sure I'll watch it again before the week's out. It was funny. So obviously for those watching, this is going to get spoiled. We're going to be talking spoilers here as well. So I hope you've all seen the episode. If you haven't, you may need to watch the episode and then come back to our Facebook page and watch it later.
Yeah.
We'll just sit here twiddling our thumbs while we wait for them. It's okay.
As they came around to that trading post on the planet, and you saw all the stuff on the ground, and then there was like the remnants
the big floating one. What looks like used to be Babylon 5.
Thank you. It wasn't me.
No, I'm right there with you. Even the logo at the front looked like the Zocalo.
Yeah.
Yes. We won't talk about that.
Comment from here's a good one from Lily here. Hey Lily, how you doing? Yeah, it's because we're now 1,000 years in the future. So yeah, Peter, you've got some comments about this, about the freedom that they're able to use in this show now.
Well, as I said, I've actually been looking forward to season 3 because they're now in the future. And again, my thoughts are that this is what Andromeda should have been all along. And Andromeda should have been what Enterprise was, which is what Discovery now is. They should have just somehow gone to the future, didn't matter what it was, and started a whole new Star Trek timeline. So they weren't bound by pre-Federation rules that we know. It's also interesting because if you notice, they did say this was now 150 years after the Time Wars, and that the time travel has now been banned. So that was an interesting little one. So we won't be seeing any blue boxes turn up.
Well, it was kind of funny. If you remember during talking to Crewman Daniels on Enterprise, when they were talking about the Time War and all this sort of thing, and when he brought Archer to the future at the end of season 1, he actually said that time travel had been banned. So they're keeping with a little bit of, I guess, the future history that's already been written. They're sort of keeping in with that as well.
They're going back to what's actually been written, which they really haven't done much at all during Discovery. There's only some key elements. But the one thing that I really found interesting is they mentioned it in one of the trailers when they mentioned the burn. And
yes.
Now you know what the burn was. And the first thing I thought, do you guys remember that Short Trek? You know, the first season of Short Trek, the alien that was like the twin on her planet. I think it was Zahia or Zahina. And it was like the dilithium crystal planet where they could recrystallize dilithium. And then she sort of made an appearance in the finale. First thing I thought it was something. It actually has something to do with that planet. Seeing as they introduced that storyline, it could have something to do with it, which could potentially tie back the Discovery crew back into that storyline as well. And there's some familiarity with it.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, they've set up a lot of things because Book rattled off. I think Book's an unfortunate choice of the name because it just takes you straight to Firefly, but leaving that to one side. He rattled off all these forms of drive that they were now using. They had the transwarp slipstream. They had, so it's interesting that obviously possibly the spore drive will still take a big part in it. I will say the only thing I'm disappointed with the opening episode is that they've gone down the path of having the series have to have Burnham and the Discovery apart until they find each other, which has just been done to death in so many shows. To be quite honest, I would have liked it straight up, like even if it was just at the end of the episode, not a rescue or anything like that, but just at the end of the episode as she's about to set off to find them, something, the whole, we're going to travel down these different paths and then they will find each other. It's a trope that's been done forever, and I would have rather they started fresh, but that's only a minor irritation.
Yeah, right. You do see from the trailers. Sorry, go.
G, have you got those photos I sent you through?
Yes, I do. You're
going to bring those up because Pete sort of hinted at where I'm going with some of that as well. How long is it going to be before? Not how many episodes, but timeline-wise, years, months, days. How long is she waiting for Discovery to come through? Do you think, Pete? You got an idea?
I don't actually think it'll be long because if you look at the trailer at the end of the episode, she's back there, and it doesn't look like much time has passed. I don't think it will be very long, which is why I'm saying I kind of wish they'd done it almost even at the end of the episode or whatever, because the trailer kind of shows her back in the Starfleet uniform,
Well, so we've got a couple of pictures here. If you have a look in last night's episode, you saw her hair was short, like you can see there on the screen
in the episode. And then remember too in the trailer that you do see that transition where she's sitting in a ship or a shuttlecraft or something. You can see that. So this is her in the episode, and then that's
have a look at the promo photo.
Yeah.
Now look at the length. Look at the length of her hair there. Now, as someone who can't seem to grow hair, I can't comment on how long that'll take. But
for me, that would be about 6 weeks.
But I mean, how long does it take to grow your hair that length? Is that a year's worth of growth? 2 years worth of growth? Anyone want to comment for us and let us know if you've got? As I said, I'm balding. My hair's falling out faster.
That's over.
But yeah, so I'm thinking, it might be next episode, sort of the end of the episode when Discovery appears. But it could be 12 months later, 2 years later.
The other side of that, however, is that sure these are shots from it, but we don't know that some of these shots could be flashback shots. Some of these could be storylines that are, kind of happening, and she remembers things. We just don't know yet. It could be the journey could be a long one, and Discovery is seen through her eyes. I mean, we've got to look at the fact that one of the
they reckon possibly 5 years plus to get your hair that length.
The other thing to remember is that in the short treks that they did, which they say are all part of the storyline, you have the episode where Discovery is there with no crew, and it's been there 1,000 years. Calypso, yeah.
Yep.
And it's been there, 1,000 years? So that's 100 years on from now, from where it's currently set. So
that's where the AI, the computer's developed its own AI.
Yeah. So could be an inner light moment. I like that comment. That's good.
Yeah. Look, something else that was cool was the all of the different aliens coming back in. One though that I think particularly needs a shout out. It was nice to see a relative of Morn there.
Yeah, the Lurians.
Did you see?
The Lurians actually moving,
shooting at
move around, not just sit on a bar.
But did you notice he still didn't say a word?
He still didn't.
Piece of trivia for you. You know the episode Inner Light. You know the makeup Patrick wore as the older Patrick in Inner Light. Yep. They use that same face mask for Marina 3 years later for one of the episodes where she had to age. It was exactly the same makeup. They just cut it down to fit her size face. Yeah, well, that was when it was coming into the last of it, and it's coming into the last of it, and they were just doing budget cuts left, right, and centre. Yeah.
Oh, there's a good.
Great to see Andorians. But what was the thing with Andorians with the...
I wanted to mention that exactly. What's with those extra little tidbits? The Discovery production crew, they just seem to want to change all the aliens that are very well established. And I thought they let the lesson from Klingons and then gave Andorians some extra little protrusions. I'm like, what's going on there?
Well, it's 900 years in the future. They're mutated.
They could have evolved. I mean, yeah, I guess. But
yeah, that's it.
I mean, they're pretty well established.
So. Did you also notice the Orion wasn't as green?
Yeah,
the Orion was more shiny green. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and that character that was chasing Book at the beginning and then ends up, sort of part of that team that was chasing him during the episode, the other courier. Do you think that was an Iridian? Just an updated version of an Iridian.
I think it was. I like the bit towards the end where the little beastie swallows Burnham and then spits her out. All I was thinking of was Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny. It was one of the funnier episodes I've seen of Discovery. Especially when she was drugged.
Or it's Star Trek's version of Steve Irwin of the Crocodile Hunter. He's saving creatures and putting them in a conservation space.
I think they needed to do a funnier episode. I think they need to set a new tone.
Yeah.
It's in the future. It's a new universe. We have to set a new tone for Discovery now. It was important. I really think it was important that they do that, especially because they're now competing head-to-head. Well, not head-to-head because it's finished, but you've got Lower Decks out there as the much lighter, funny kind of world of Trek. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
the other thing too,
it's funny. You see, Ali here says that she was thinking very much of Star Wars, especially when they're in a city. It's funny, after you saw that scene of what was Babylon 5, when they went into the city, the first thing I thought was very Blade Runner.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very dystopian. But
I think
it very much looked like
in the future. Being that time period, the production designers can do whatever they want now without being, like the whole problem with that I found Discovery's had. I mean, I don't mind it because I think it was great, but a lot of the grievances people have is that it looks too technical, it looks too advanced, even though it's supposed to be way before what we've seen previously. Now they can do whatever they want. And
all
those new concepts. I dug that new console. That sort of nanotechnology where everything just morphs and forms around you, and I thought it was cool. But
I did think
I thought that the technology they showed in the future, I thought was on point with everything sort of the desk cover, the bed, and like everything with the on the communications array.
Mm.
Yeah, like that's it. The space toothbrush. Like those. You remember those little the box of pins that you put in and you could make shapes and stuff.
Yeah,
it very much looked like that. The console, but no, I thought the futuristic element was definitely on point. I thought it looked great.
I did think it was amusing that at the end of second season, the way they were going to explain how nobody had ever seen this advanced ship or ever talked about it through classic Trek, through Next Gen or anybody else, was basically that the entire world of Starfleet pinky sweared never to talk about it, which is essentially what they did at the end. I was like, well, we won't ever say that the Discovery existed. It's gone now. Shh, it's a secret.
Well, hang on. It worked in Star Trek Revenge of the Sith. And at the end, Star Trek decided, why can't we do it too?
Well, I just saw a really interesting comment that, TNG changed the Romulans, DS9 changed the Trill. And, of course, Star Trek the Motion Picture changed the Klingons. Because that was the first time we'd seen the cheese-grated Klingons was Star Trek the Motion Picture. And, of course, who was the first?
Believe me, I'm not complaining. I think everything needs an update. It needs to, the aesthetic needs to change to new audiences. I'm just making the comment that they changed the Klingons and got absolutely reamed for it by fans. So
in Discovery, the thing I have a problem with the Klingons is, of course, this is set 10 years before Kirk, and it's therefore 70 years after Enterprise. And at that time, Klingons were human-looking. And again, this is the whole point. This is the whole point of, if they had done it in the future, you could have totally revamped the Klingons so that the marketing and merchandising department had all new toy figures to get out there and play with, because they've mutated again. And with what was established in Enterprise, with the fact that they were originally the cheese graters and then they became human-looking due to the viral mutation, then you've got the perfect thing that you could change the Klingons as often as you wanted once you got past TNG due to that viral mutation. So, it was all there. I had a problem with them making the Klingons a totally new look Klingon, unless what you want to do is kind of Nemesis idea, that there was a region of Klingon that we'd never seen before. Like in Nemesis, in the movie Nemesis, we had the Romulans, who were the Romulans we'd always known, and then we have Remus. And here's these very different looking, still Romulans, but they're from Remus. Yeah. So they're still called Romulans, but they were that very different looking, almost vampiric kind of, not from Star.
Like if they carried them over into Enterprise as well. They were in the show.
So the point being that maybe it's never been explained, there is a sub-region of Klingons someplace that this group, but then you've got 13 families, so maybe they're all inbred and we just didn't know about it.
Well, who knows? Maybe they've got coronavirus. We don't know.
Actually, here's a comment here. I'm just bringing it up now. Yeah, that's what I always figured, Andy. Exactly the same.
Fair point. Fair point.
Well,
if you think about it, comes to Earth and you've got, here's a cow and here's a human.
Yeah, but they're not the same species.
Yeah.
You know,
different areas. Yeah,
I will admit that I know a whole lot of humans that are real cows, but you know, let's face it, they're not the same species. You know, look, the reason I say that is because when Star Trek: The Motion Picture came out, one of the things that they were saying was that the human-looking Klingons were from the northern hemisphere, and that the cheese-grater Klingons were from the southern hemisphere, and we'd never really explored that in classic Trek. And what had happened is they'd had a civil war, and now the cheese graters were in charge. Whereas the truth of the matter is they simply gave the makeup department far more money for Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and we got the new Klingons, which of course, and interestingly enough, the first Klingon we get to see in Star Trek: The Motion Picture is Spock's dad, Mark Leonard, who plays Sarek.
Yeah.
So up till Jeffrey Combs, Mark Leonard was the actor who played the most aliens in Star Trek.
Yeah,
and I think now it's just between Jeff Combs and Vaughn Armstrong, isn't it?
No, Jeff Combs leaves Vaughn Armstrong for dead by about 6 or 7.
He's been almost everything. I mean, the thing is, Jeff Combs, how do you go from being a Ferengi to a Vorta within 2 episodes of each other? That guy's just amazing.
Yeah. He was, of course, the Andorian Captain Shred in Enterprise. He was in Enterprise. I think he has about a dozen. He has about a dozen characters under his belt for Star Trek now.
Yep. Wow.
But Vaughn was him.
So, all right. So now that we've watched the episode, I want to hear your crazy fan theories of, and maybe did you have a theory going into season 3, and after seeing the first episode it changed? But rather, where is it going to go? Where do you think this season's going to go?
It's boldly going to go where no Star Trek's gone before.
Yeah, it's going to live up to its to the tag. Pete, I'll let you go first.
Look, I think they've got a whole bunch of worlds that they can deliver on. And I think this is the thing. You finally now have probably a writing staff that's not constrained, whereas even DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise were constrained by the rules of Star Trek to some degree. You don't have that now. So they've got a lot. I'm really interested to see how Michelle Yeoh's character comes back into it. From the, she's there from the mirror universe. There is no Section 31 anymore. The fact that the galaxy is out of touch with each other was really interesting. She finds the one from the Federation who's not really the Federation but is keeping it alive. And she's informed that, well, I can only talk to my sector because there's no subspace communication with this bit or that bit, and we got so used to in things like DS9 and Next Gen kind of phoning home for instructions almost. So it's going to be interesting in that. I think there's going to be a lot of world building going on. We've already seen it with Book's character. He's rescuing endangered species. So I think we're going to see a lot of almost running around problem solving to prove that the Federation should exist, and it'll be through that problem solving that they get it to exist. it'll be interesting. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of just my thoughts. I don't know. I have no idea where it will specifically go because at this stage they don't have a main villain.
There's no.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
there's no threat. There's no kind of specific. We know that the threat is the destruction of the Federation. So I think the goal from Burnham and just that whole scene with the guy with his nanotech. What's that thing? You put your hand in it does it. Yeah. That guy. I think there's going to be a lot of that kind of finding people to establish and try and keep things going, and that's where Discovery is going to come into it because of the spore drive, if they've still got the spore drive operating, because they. You saw the scramble for the little bits of dilithium, etc., because warp drive is limited. They can't go anywhere. They can't do a lot. So, it's also interesting to see that Burnham is now the icon of hope, as opposed to the 2 seasons where she was the pragmatist and almost the destroyer. She's now the icon of hope. She's now that one who wants to carry forward the world of the Federation. So it's going to be interesting.
Scotty, it looks like you're trying to show something.
Actually, one of the I was actually looking for the dilithium crystals I have because they're not red.
You should sell them to someone from the future.
So,
you get a fortune for it.
Good. So, G, what do you reckon?
Well,
what were you thinking going in?
Look, it's hard to say, but I think they're going to play it safe, to be completely blunt. But they've got a few things already in place that could help tell the storyline. And look, I hope it goes in a direction nobody expects. But at the end they raised the flag, the Federation flag, and it had 5 or 6 stars on it, 5 or 6 member planets, member systems. So it kind of looks like that part of potentially like a subplot of the series will be bringing planets back into the fold, making a new alliance. So they can see like their KPIs, they can see how well they're going by adding stars to that flag. So by episode 10, there could be 20 stars on that. They could be filling it up and creating almost a new federation. I think they could probably right now we don't know what they don't know what to do. So they feel it could be they may have the means to solve the dilithium problem. Again, that the episode with Zahina, that could be part of that. They may have some of the specs and the technology that she brought on board to recrystallize dilithium. So they could sort of reignite the galaxy again. Who knows? It's hard to say. Even when you saw that creature for the first time, that book was transporting. For a second, I thought it was what's the name of the creature they used to run the spore drive in season 1?
The tardigrade.
The tardigrade.
Yeah, the tardigrade. Yeah.
I thought for a second I thought it was going to be a tardigrade. And then it's like, oh wow, we've got the means to do it.
Yes, yeah, I thought that as well.
So who knows? But I think at least the subplot will be to bring everyone back together. With that sort of that hope, and I think they're just going to get met with resistance. And it's like, who cares? Nobody cares about it anymore. But I reckon once they start getting ships together and more ships can go to war, because they mentioned there's 2 ships in the Federation, 2 Federation starships.
Well, there's 2 Federation ships in their sector.
In the sector.
In sector.
So it's establishing communication. And now I can see, after as soon as I heard that, one of the things that flooded to my brain was they're going to find a derelict starbase full of intact ships. Probably been there for 500-600 years. And then let's get these back up to spec, and then start building a small fleet for whatever they try to do throughout the rest of the season, because we don't know what the season's about. Did the sphere data? You know what I mean? They haven't mentioned that, because when all that happened, when season 2 started happening and Control, I don't think I was the only one, but I mean, I thought for a second that's the Borg, that's the genesis of the Borg, and somehow there is some sort of time travel that gets that going. But I mean, obviously, it wasn't to be.
And
They
we
just
the Borg can time.
used a lot of the elements from the Borg, but that sphere data is still there. It's still somewhere, so that can still come into play as well at some point.
Well, the sphere data is in Discovery.
It's in Discovery, exactly. They've got it.
Yeah. So it's there, but the sphere itself was then destroyed in second season.
Yeah.
So that's why Discovery went to the future, was to not allow anybody to get that technology,
Exactly.
to get that information. But now you have that, which, if they can use it, would probably therefore make the Discovery and those on board the most powerful ship and beings in the then galaxy because of that, because they have that knowledge that nobody else was allowed to have. And what's really interesting is if the Federation was too unstable to have that due to groups like Section 31 or something, what then happens to it in the future? Because look at the future. There's no stability of any description in this opening episode. So suddenly, if people find out that Discovery has that information, it becomes once more the most hunted ship in the galaxy.
Yeah, they put a target on
for people trying to go. Yeah. So there are multiple storylines that can come into this. The cats are flirking. I thought that as soon as I saw it.
Well, look, heading into the season, right? Obviously, I'm here in Melbourne, so we've been locked down since July, I think. So not able to go anywhere, see anybody. So I've done a lot of TV watching, and one of them is I went back and started rewatching Enterprise, which obviously season 1 had all of the temporal war and the time travel stuff, and that started sending me going, oh, that's 1,000 years in the future. Enterprise has just been flung to about the same time, because crewman Daniels never told us exactly when he was from. He just said it was about 900 years into the future. So I thought, oh, okay, they've been flung there. Are they going to try and tidy up and they could interact and tie in with the Enterprise universe? Then last night's episode totally changed my thinking, and I can see it in where we think it's going. I mean, you can see Andrew here has said it. I think Susan said it. I'll bring up one of them there. Basically, they think that they're going to, rebirth the Federation and try and put it back together. And I figure we know that we've got one station there that can see around 30 sectors, he said, and that there are others probably. So once the ship arrives, they've got the means then to zip around to all the other stations, get everyone's long-range sensors up, communicate platforms, but ultimately, are we looking down the barrel of them remaking Andromeda? If you think about it, Kevin Sorbo and the Andromeda Ascendant flung 500 years in the future. Him on his ship, no Federation left, wanting to rebuild it. The whole idea at the time, I remember going, it was a Roddenberry storyline. It was, okay, Roddenberry's written this as if what would happen if Captain Kirk was on the prize, got flung 500 years in the future and the Federation didn't exist. Kirk try and rebuild. Is this something that they're looking at doing? Do you think they're going to go down it? Given that, Rod Roddenberry is an executive producer on Discovery, all as executive producers on.
Well, actually, Andromeda is a reworking of a thing called Earth 2, which was 1974.
Which he made in the 70s with John Saxon, didn't he?
Yeah.
No, John Saxon played the character the second time round. The first guy who played it was my mind's gone blank. Do you remember Airwolf, the series Airwolf?
Yeah.
The guy who played Archangel in Airwolf played. Yes, he played Dylan Hunt in the series. So it was going to be a series, and it was called Earth 2. And basically, the guy, Dylan Hunt, was a scientist. They were working on suspended animation technology for NASA. And there's an earthquake. He's in the San Andreas caverns or something like that. He is found 186 years later. There's been a world war, nuclear weapons, blah, blah, blah. Usual story. And he's now at PAX and they're the survivors, some of the survivors. The interesting thing was Majel Hartley, who was in All Our Yesterdays, who played the woman who was in the ice world, who Spock falls for in classic Trek. She had an outfit that when they originally had it, they had to redesign it because the censor said she couldn't show her belly button. So Gene said, on the next one, I'll give you 2. And she was a mutant in this new series, and he gave her 2 belly buttons. So they show that's how she determines she's a mutant. So
essentially, it's the pre-visualization of that awesome show. I'm sure everybody remembers Cleopatra 2525.
Pretty close. 25. Cleopatra 2525 has a lot of Earth 2 in it, and then he did another one which was. Basically. And, of course, Gina Torres is one of them. And what happened was then he did that as a pilot. It didn't sell as a TV series. So he redid it again, and the second time had John Saxon in it, playing the Dylan Hunt character, and Diane Mulder was the female lead in it.
Yes.
And then that didn't sell. So he did a third version of it, which was 3 short stories, which was even more appalling than the other 2 that had gone before. But as I said, so Andromeda, when you see the series Andromeda, it's even the same name, Dylan Hunt. So it's Captain Dylan Hunt. So the premise is the same, except it's now they've taken it to the world of Star Trek, etc. And then of course that all changed because one of the lead writers left halfway through 2nd season. Because I believe him and Sorbo didn't see eye to eye on quite a few things. Sorbo wanted to do classic Trek episodic television. The writer wanted to do Babylon 5. So Kevin won.
Yeah.
Well, actually, and that is Discovery's very much the big episodic arc where, probably, look, we're not going to, it's October already. So maybe this time next year, we should have, because season 4 Discovery goes into production shortly. They've already been talking about that. We've got the Emperor Giorgio Section 31 TV show coming. We've got
that's actually
Lower Decks. Oh, was that scrapped?
Yeah,
I believe it was. Yeah,
they've sort of unofficially said it's not going ahead. They're just not giving out any information. They're going to stick with Strange New Worlds.
See, but we've got Strange New World, which is the Captain Pike show, and after meeting him last year at Supernova, and that's going back to, from what I understand, that classic Star Trek, just classic episodic. You don't have to tune in for the whole thing. And as Mark said here, it was just announced this week. We've got the new one coming as well, Star Trek Prodigy.
Yeah, the Nickelodeon.
Yeah, Prodigy there with Kate Mulgrew coming back as Captain Janeway.
Yeah, I'm a little bit dubious about that one, but we'll see how that pans out.
Little bit.
I figure it'll be in the same vein as Lower Decks.
No, I think being Nickelodeon, I have a strong feeling it's going to be a kid's Star Trek.
Yeah, well, that's what they said it's going to be. It's going to be a kid's Star Trek. So, but look, I can see where they could be going with Discovery Season 3. It's sort of, they're going to try and do what Roddenberry's image, what his imagination of the show was right from the beginning, and build it from scratch. And then maybe, now they're going to have to throw rules. This is a universe where they've been going without Federation rules for, a couple of hundred years now. Now they have to put the rules back. But I think it gives them a chance to do it from scratch, do it, where it's a little bit more politically correct, I think, in some points. And they're probably going to address some, they're going to put some sort of wokefulness into it. They're going to address some sort of modern day issues. That's going to happen. But I just think they're going to play it safe.
Yeah.
And see how this goes, and then what they can and can't get away with for season 4. Really try and push the boundary, because I don't think a show's ever really pushed the boundaries yet. I mean, the only one that has, to be honest, is Lower Decks, and because it's an animated format, they can sort of get away with more, and I think that's why people like it. I mean, love it or hate it, I think Lower Decks is probably some of the best Trek we've seen for a long time, because it's classic Trek the way we want it, and we haven't seen that yet. So, we can only wait and see.
It's look, I think one of the things that they have a chance to do with Discovery now is they have the ability to go back. They have the ability to do a series with an arc in there, but they have the ability to go back almost to classic Trek episodic TV. There's a start and a finish point, and each episode can simply be a contained way of getting to there. And like the idea of the Prime Directive, you can have some wonderful, wonderful episodes based around, like the Prime Directive to Kirk was a suggestion. If it fit his needs, the Prime Directive was there. And you've now got that. It's because you've got this moral ambiguity that could now come into it with that's against the Prime Directive. Oh, hold on. The Prime Directive doesn't exist. We don't have that now. No, well, if we're going to rebuild the Federation and Starfleet, we have to have that. So you've got some interesting ways of doing things. And almost like what would be really interesting if they do a bit of a Lower Decks. We had the little comment about, Orion's working with Andorians. When did that happen?
Andorian.
Now, you've got this whole thing, a la that episode of the last episode of Lower Decks, where they're back with Landru's bunch having a go at them because the Federation forgot about them. So you've actually got the ability to do that now in Discovery, where you can do storylines that touch on what was left over from before. And never, you're like, let's face it, Wrath of Khan is that whole idea, like you didn't bother to come and check on us. So now I'm going to destroy you and your universe and everybody around you. I think they've got some good possibilities.
Like Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
Do a Wrath of Khan episode. But you're right, because they can do.
But who's going to have the chest?
Oh, yeah, you don't have Anson Mount anymore. Oh. Maybe the Doctor, but no, you're right, because you can do the episodes episodically, where it's basically exploring the galaxy in the 31st century. So that's how you learn. That's how they do the world building. You learn about what's happening, and then that subplot is building the Federation and adding member worlds to the Federation. And that you might see that at the end of every episode, or every now and then they'll show where they're at, and it'll culminate to something. But the episodic way to film it would probably, the way that if they show it like that will actually be really good. But it's funny you mentioned that they have the opportunity to do Lower Decks in Discovery. They sort of did that a little bit in Discovery. Like, do you remember the episode where I think the opening scene was basically a nightclub, the dance party they had in their their version of 10 Forward on the ship? Tilly's on the table dancing. They've got the disco lights going. They show a little bit more behind the scenes, and they sort of try to humanize the crew a little bit more throughout the whole series. But showing a dance party on board a starship in Star Trek, I think that's never been done before.
No, but we did have a sing-along.
Oh, yeah, we've had sing-alongs, absolutely. We've had recitals. We've had, quartet recitals, but we've never had dance music. We've never had a rave on a starship.
Do you know that, what's his name? The guy who played Adam in The Apple, classic Trek, who then has turned up every now and then in other things, whose name I can't remember at the moment. He actually wrote the music to that episode, and to this day still gets royalties off the music for that episode, for the songs and everything he wrote.
No, I think the best ending to any sort of musical stuff going on in Star Trek is when Worf smashes the lute against a tree.
Well, now, there's another thing. We've never seen him, but you've got the possibility 900 years in the future. Be interesting to see if they decide Q should pop in on them. Charles Napier, thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. So the last question I've got before we wrap this up is the nature of it's released one episode a week rather than a lot of other series and stuff on Netflix and all the streaming services. They dump your entire season all at once and you binge it over a weekend and you're done. I am a big fan of the one episode a week original style type of releasing. It allows fans like all of us here and everybody watching to sit, chat, gets longer, because a lot of these shows you binge it, it's all the talk for a week, and then it disappears again. With something like this, you're able to stretch it out. Where if they do, it's only 13 episodes, but they stretch the hype out for 13 weeks, which I as a fan, I much prefer it. I love it. I love being able to have something new each week to watch, to discuss. What do you guys think?
Well, I agree. And you look at the shows that have actually been successful in the last couple of years, like the shows that have really cut through and sort of become their own new franchise. Like Discovery, yes, because it's week by week. Then you look at shows like The Boys on Amazon Prime, where they release that once a week. They do three, initially, and then they drop one a week, and that keeps you. You're right. It keeps you talking about it. And it builds a franchise, where some of these other shows, especially the Netflix series where they just dump the whole thing in one hit, you can binge it in 2 nights or one day if you're a freak. No one talks about it after. The Witcher. The Witcher was a great show. Everyone people enjoyed it. They loved the show. I enjoyed it. I wasn't a fan of The Witcher beforehand, but I enjoyed the series. But I finished that in a few days, and I don't talk about it after. It's so these shows where you binge completely, in a very short amount of time. There's no cut through, and I think that's you look at collections, look at you, Scott, look what's behind you, look what's behind me. We talk about it all the time. So release them once a week. Yes, I would love to binge the whole show because I don't want to wait. I want to see what happens in the next episode of Discovery and keep going. I'm a fan. I'm a fanboy. I'll keep watching it till the end, but then I've got nothing to do after.
I think if you have a look at, for instance, Mandalorian, 8 episodes.
Mandalorian. Sorry, I forgot to mention Mandalorian. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weekly drop. Witcher, for instance, as soon as you do a binge watch, as soon as you do a binge watch of Witcher, the problem with that is that your head explodes because of the timelines, and you can't discuss it with anybody.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a fan of Witches. I really like it. I think the point is, and if you take a look at Netflix and show places like that, they are tending to now go with their own material, weekly drops. It's only when they buy a large amount of material that they do. Here, it's all available. Yeah, sure. Look how long it took them to get the 12th season of Big Bang Theory. It's only just arrived this week. So it's up. So I think we are seeing that people who are creating their own product, all Netflix original shows are weekly drops. They're not binges. Disney's the same. One of my favorite series on Disney just recently was the Life According to Jeff Goldblum, and that was wonderful. And that was a weekly drop.
So good.
And I think we are going back to that. I think people are then binging. I won't say lesser shows, but they're binging shows that they don't necessarily feel need the time to go through. Like I've had to watch Witcher twice so far just to catch up with it, to re-get it in my brain, Yeah. So I think that's
so bizarre. I had no idea what was going on.
So I agree. I think our impatience as fan people. I didn't say fanboys because there's a lot of girls in the comments. Our impatience as fan people, we want it as fans. We want it now. In fact, we want a temporal device so that we can go back and it's produced for us last week. But I think, and the biggest problem that we have as fans these days is the inability to discuss it because other people haven't had a chance to see it. When you used to turn up to a monthly meeting, there's a good chance everybody had caught up with it. Now, there's a good chance that we're discussing Discovery. We've thrown in comments about Lower Decks, and probably there's a fair batch of people here who haven't seen Lower Decks because they don't have access to it.
Yeah, because it's not available here yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've binged The Simpsons 2 times in lockdown. It's a lot simpler for background noise for the kids.
It's great to binge a show, especially if you've already watched it or if it's coming on. When it's a new show, something like Discovery, I mean, again, we're all geeks. We're going to do it because we're impatient. I mean, the internet was invented for people like us. We can buy things online, we can download things, we do whatever we want because we're all impatient. But having to wait gives you that yearning for more. So, and I did see that comment that CBS are only releasing Discovery one episode a week, and obviously Netflix have to follow suit. And that was the same with Picard as well. So, no, I think keep it once, So,
but Picard wasn't worth the wait.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with Picard.
We are so going to need to have another chat about that one then.
That's a whole other episode. What pissed me off about Picard?
Another 50-minute discussion.
Yeah. It's a bit like that.
We have been going for 50 minutes, and being in Melbourne, where for you guys, and being here in Melbourne, where we're not allowed to go out, this is the most fun I've had on a Saturday night in probably 6 or 7 months. So thank you. I'd like to thank both of you for joining me.
We won't discuss Diana then. That's okay.
I hope your wife's not watching this, Scott.
She'll watch this later, and so big thank you to both of you gentlemen for joining me. Big thank you to everybody who's tuning in and has watched the stream and commented. It's been fantastic. So I hope that you've liked this format. If so, please do let us know. And we may look at doing other live streams. I've just launched a YouTube channel because what the hell else have I got to do with my time? So I'll be putting some stuff on that.
Young Scotty, now that the technology's all there and it's so easy, we should do this after and over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we could. Yeah. And I mean, look,
it's so easy.
The whole look. Anyone that knows me, that the whole reason in sort of giving this a try is to make understand the technology and how it all works before I invite any celebrity guests in and we start trying actual online conventions. So I don't know. So far, so good. I'm pretty happy with the way everything's worked. I understand what I'm looking at here on the screen in front of me, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed the stream as well.
It's been fun. It's something that again is missing from the community at the moment, is that ability to get together and just discuss, chat about the fan things, because normally when we all get to meet up at one of the shows, we're also busy. We don't really get to sit around and talk about the fan things. So it's nice to sit and talk about the fan things.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, we do it all the time. We come post event or even during the show, we just don't have time, but we can sit and stand around and talk about. I mean, Pete, we've done it before. Someone mentioned one small thing from an episode of a show, and all of a sudden that's an hour and a half out of our day, and we're like, oh man, I've got to be here. I'm supposed to be back there, or don't you have to be on a panel, Pete? Aren't you hosting a panel?
Don't tell that to the show manager though. Whatever you do, okay? Because I hear he's a real bastard. Yeah, Yeah.
Oh, I know that program manager. That program manager over there.
And look, for those of you that are out there that are still watching, that are interested in keeping your nerdy Saturday night going, our friends over at the Doctor Who Club of Victoria, in 5 minutes' time, are streaming first online meeting through Facebook as well. You can search Facebook search for Doctor Who Club of Victoria. I said it's running in about 5 minutes' time. They've actually got guests and stuff joining them tonight, including one of them is an old friend and previous guest of ours, Simon Fisher-Becker, who played Dory Moldovar, head in a box, the blue guy. So they've got some guests and a big chat. So if you want to keep your nerdy night going on, you can head over to there. So again, thank you very much to G and Pete for joining me tonight. Thank you for all of you for viewing and all your comments. And I think we'll see you at the next one.
Good night, everyone.